This is the Variety Sports Network, created for the fans, by the fans. Now to your host of tonight's show.
And welcome to the seventh inning stretch here, presented by Dugout Mugs Studio, Row 1 brand. And I got a special guest, a special co-host with me tonight, Michael McKenry, joining me tonight again. A pleasure to have you back on a second time around here. Thanks for taking some time out of your evening here to join us tonight to talk a little. Hey, at least it's playoff baseball, right?
Absolutely, no problem. Happy to do it. And, luckily I'm still a night owl. Our schedule in the media world is very similar to when I played. So I'm wide awake. Had to drive all day because I'm in Knoxville. So I'm not at home. Right. I'm in the hotel. Look at these awesome decorations up here. Yep. Beautiful. Did that just for you. You're welcome.
Beautiful.
Yep.
What is that, a tomato? I don't even know what that thing is.
I'm not sure. We'll just pretend it's a tomato. Yes.
There you go. So no, I appreciate you taking the time to join us here a little bit, and we'll kind of go over some of the series a little bit, and just kind of. I did see on. Well, I feel like it was on. Was it X now? I always want to call it Twitter, but I feel like on that I saw that you're doing Did you do a morning show? Is that what it was that you were doing recently here? What was that? What did you have going on, or a podcast? Did you join? I saw some post about you doing something in the morning. I thought maybe you joined something.
Yeah, so I did a podcast yesterday. One I hadn't done since 2020. They called back, and really cool story. Go back and look at it. The kid that actually hosts the podcast said he was the Make-A-Wish kid in 2013, and he wanted to meet Kutch. So I met him, and we kind of put all that together in the podcast. It was really neat, but he just had this incredible story about what an awesome dude Kutch is, me being a friend of his. I couldn't agree more, but I remember that like it was yesterday, seeing that kid walking down and seeing Kutch and him spend the entire day in the clubhouse with us. And, it's crazy. He's still here. I mean, think about that. That's 10 years ago, right? And most of those kids don't make it that long. And what a blessing he is.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. You're hitting a spot with me. My son had a Make-A-Wish Foundation in 2017. He went to a monster truck rally here in Oakland, California.
What?
And he's still with me right now. He was diagnosed with leukemia when he was 3. He's in 5th grade right now. So
what's his name?
Derek Breyer is his name. So he's
Derek Breyer. Text that to me, and I promise you I will be praying for him.
Well, I appreciate that, man.
And get strong and try to beat that, or at least kick it in the mouth.
I'll be honest with you. If it wasn't for the prayer of other people, I wouldn't be with you today either. And still married to my wife as well, that went through all that with me. So I'm very, very aware of those Make-A-Wish Foundation stuff. So that's really cool, and that's really awesome that
you're able to
connect with them a little bit later, and that you probably remembered him from all that time, all the way back then. So
it was weird. I hadn't thought about that in so long. And one of my coworkers, Mike, he's an editor, amazing editor, Mikey Welsh. His daughter is a Make-A-Wish, and every time I hear that, I think of her and how sweet she is, how amazing she is, and some of the complications they've gone through. So it just popped in my head like, oh yeah, I remember that kid. He was so shy, and then he just opened up like a light. Yeah. It was incredible. So yeah, it's really cool. And, thanks for sharing. I know when tragedy or trauma or anything happens, it's really hard on the family. People don't think about it. They don't think about the marriage. They don't think about the relationship. Kudos for you for sharing that. And I hope you at some point can continue to do that, because it's a blessing to others. It really is.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you don't want to like you don't want to just always overshare, but there's always moments it feels like in your walk here where you feel like you need to share that a little bit with people.
Yeah, you'll know. I feel like we always know.
Yeah,
I feel like too often we turn away from when we should. Yeah, more than actually kind of going overboard when we shouldn't.
No doubt. That's kind of how that was with him, and like I said, the people around me is what kind of feel like saved us. So that's always what remembers that. So that's very cool, that story right there.
Takes a village, baby.
Yeah, exactly. And as we talk about a village, to win a postseason, you need a village. That is what you need to win an MLB postseason. And I got to ask you, as somebody that played in the big leagues, I know that I believe your only postseason experience, if I remember, was when you told me you were injured, right? Mm-hmm. That year that you were there. But still, you said you were there in the dugout there. There's not, to me, I've always told you, like, I love all the other sports, but man, postseason baseball, baby. Like the atmosphere is just so different than any of the other sports. There's something, I don't know. There's something so pure about it. And to see the guys always fired up about every pitch just gets me freaking jacked up. And the losses, I'm an A's fan, so I've always experienced the losses, but it kills you when they lose in the postseason. So I don't know. To me, it just jacks me up when the postseason starts here.
Yeah, I think winning in general jacks me up. I mean, I could think all the way back to high school when we won the state championship, one of the better teams in the country, and we didn't have, a bunch of first rounders. We didn't have a bunch of Division I players. We just were good, and we were good as a team.
Yeah.
And that just jacks you up. And I cannot explain the following we gathered. I mean, it was a small following, but it was special. And then you times that by affinity. That's the big leagues, right? Especially if you can come together like the Phillies have. I mean, if you haven't watched that game, you literally don't have a pulse. I mean, you got to watch these Phillies play. I think Atlanta is going to be similar. But what they did in Philadelphia, it was a separator. And that's what I felt in 2013 with the blackout game, the wild card game, Cueto dropping the ball. You knew we were going to win. I was out there an hour before a game, maybe even earlier than that, just watching the sea of, black come across beautiful yellow Clemente Bridge. And it was remarkable. It almost looked like a sea urchin of sorts, like it was going to come to life. And it's something I'll never forget. It's the greatest sports memory in my life, even if I was hurt. And probably the coolest thing for me personally is I'd only been walking or off my crutches for maybe 4 or 5 days.
Okay.
And when I walked out, I'm the only dude that walked out of the dugout when he got introduced before the anthem. Only dude, right? Everybody else jogged. Even the coach that had 15 knee surgeries because I knew I wasn't ready to run. I just started walking. They stood up and clapped until I got all the way through that line. And then I got stopped, and then they started again. Dude, a tear went down my face. I got goosebumps. And those are the things you never forget. And when, I had a chance to go back to Pittsburgh, those moments pop in my head so fast. It's remarkable. And that's what makes it so special. Even if I was hurt, I felt a part of it. I felt a huge part of it. Even though I couldn't play, you just felt like it was such a unit at those moments. And it's the only way you win those games. It's the only way you ever get in the postseason and move forward. If you're not a team, you're not going to. You may get to the next round, but you are not going to win. There's no doubt in my mind that is the separator. And I think Skip Schumacher with a little bit more talent and not having to play Philadelphia, that team led by that man would have gone further. But you can't compete with Philadelphia right now. They're a different animal, and they're hot just like they were last year. It's going to be fun.
As I bring my guy Josh Edwards back in here, we got Michael the Fort McKenry here. We're talking about his playoff experience there with it. And I'm with you. Like, and somebody that lives out here in the West Coast, I even remember that blackout game. Like, what I mean? That's what, like, me and my friends even talk about. Like, you remember when Cueto dropped the ball? Like, it's just like one of those things you talk about is like, because you didn't see it very often. Like, I'm curious, as somebody that was sitting in the team dugout, as the opposing pitcher dropped the ball, like, and you're the catcher, you kind of know the mind maybe as the pitcher more than anybody else on the field. I'm just curious, what did you think of that when you saw that?
It's like everything slowed down for a moment.
Yeah.
And everything turned up volume wise.
Yeah.
And I said this recently. I was so locked in on Cueto. I didn't even pay attention to Russ.
Yeah.
Usually I kind of go back and forth, and I was just watching him. I was like, come on, get up there and get on the mound. Get up there and get on the mound. Get up there and get on the mound. And I was like, he's going to speed himself up. He's going to speed himself up. I didn't know what was going to happen. But when you talk about that pitcher-catcher relationship, I saw a team get a little bit flustered, especially veteran guys. They had a veteran catcher. They had a veteran on the mound who owned us. I mean, absolutely owned us, especially at PNC. And you could see the anxiety level go up. And he was trying to play it cool, but you knew he wasn't. And the fact that he got back on that mound and then step back off and take a deep breath, you knew something weird was going to happen. I thought maybe he'd throw it over the catcher or throw it in the dirt or hit Russ. I did not think he was going to throw a ball right down the middle, and Russ absolutely crushed it. So that was really neat. And, as I've gotten older, I appreciate little moments like that happen in a game. Just the psychology of it, the human element of it, because everybody's vulnerable. And I go back to the story about Trey Turner this year, going back to Philadelphia, when the city decided to give him a standing ovation every at bat for a series against the Kansas City Royals. And dude hits a homer late in the game, 3-run homer, and then never stopped.
Yeah.
It just shows what a fan base can do. You being in Oakland, some of the best fans, in my opinion, very small group, but there's about 10,000 of them that show up, and they're loud, they're rowdy. It makes it feel like the Coliseum is not as big as it is, but that's what it takes. And, if you want to be, an extra player for your team, show up. Get weird.
Dude, I gotta agree with you because when I was an A's fan, like the Red Sox fans always jump out to my like I hate them, but just because of the fan base, like the losing to them. But like I always had to give respect because 3-1 pitch, man, they're putting that pressure on the pitcher to throw that strike, and like I always had mad respect for that as like a crowd, and I always thought that gave them a little advantage. I got to bring my co-host in here, Josh Edwards. How we doing, Josh? How we doing here tonight?
What's up, fellas? How are you?
Doing good, my man. I know he's in baby world still, Mike. He's got what, 2-month-old now? Is she 2-month-old now? What are we at?
She's almost 4 months.
4 months now. Okay, that's even bottle still territory. So you're still working.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man. How you been? Thanks for coming back on. I was excited to see you. I just had some plans this evening before we scheduled the show.
Yeah, no worries. Happy to be here and looking forward to talking to you guys for a little bit about life and ball. We got a little serious right out of the gate, so you missed that, and you know you're so still right now. That little circle, you're so still. I can't even see it. It's wild.
So I've been out in the woods getting ready for hunting. So I am not camera appropriate right now.
That means you're very camera appropriate. Camouflage.
No, I'm not that camera. I'm just a mess.
Fair enough.
Well, we need the views here, Josh, on that. Hey, all right, as we get into baseball here, opening pitch is what I got. Initial thoughts on the first round. I mean, what do you think there? What stood out to you in the AL? I thought it was kind of interesting. You got Texas over Tampa, Minnesota over Toronto, we had Philadelphia over Miami, and obviously the D-backs over the Brewers. Was there a series that maybe stood out to you more than other there?
I honestly can't believe how bad Tampa played. I thought the momentum in a bad way with the Astros was going to push Texas the wrong direction, but I didn't think about it properly, and I should have thought about Bruce Bochy and a guy that's been there. I would have put them in the next round, but Tampa playing as bad as they did, Glasnow struggling all the errors in the first game, and then once again, not being able to produce at the plate was really weird to me. And I think you can go to the fans. I mean, they averaged about 19,000, which is absolutely just stunning to me. I mean, how good attendance was this year. I mean, 70 million fans showed up for baseball this year. That's a 30-year high in increase. It was remarkable how the fans showed up. So I think that's disturbing. I think it stinks for Tampa Bay. Those players, they went through a lot this year. They lost two of their best pitchers. They lost, their shortstop to allegations and what's going on with him. And it's wild that they were able to get as far as they did. And then all of a sudden they didn't show up. The fans didn't show up and they didn't show up to play. So that was a weird series for me. Philadelphia was my favorite. I thought Miami was a very, very good team, but I literally thought they had absolutely no chance at all. I thought the Brewers would fare better. I think Counsell is probably the biggest reason for me. They didn't play well. I feel like he kind of quit on them, saying that, we'll talk about negotiations and everything. The GM's leaving, and then obviously one of their best pitchers get hurt. But I feel like they're about to fall apart. So the Pirates are going to be able to take a huge jump forward. But I'm happy for the Diamondbacks. My boy Jeff Bannister. I think the world of him. Longoria, great dude. So I'm really happy for them. I did not see that coming, especially in Milwaukee. I feel like when you play someone like Milwaukee, it's tough. And then the Twins, good for them. About time. 2004 last time they won a game. And they look good. And I really want it for Carlos Correa. And that huge pickoff. I mean,
what a play.
Yeah. I mean, that's the advantage of having PitchCom. You would have never seen that without PitchCom because they would not take that chance.
What do you mean by that?
Because the timing pick is so difficult to execute, and you do not practice it much after spring training. Like they didn't just draw that up. They maybe have done it a couple times this year, but because of the PitchCom, if you don't know what I mean, go to PitchCom on X and you'll see it. Yeah. You push that button and it says pick to second, and it's a timing pick. So both the shortstop and Sonny hear it at the exact same time. It's called from the catcher. They turn and throw. But Correa is able to call it early on to say, hey, this is what I want to do. So they know it's, that's who should be calling it, but it's usually coming from the dugout. But that in-game IQ, that's what that guy's, worth $30 million. And I think he's going to have a big series against the Astros and kind of push back. I think that'd be really, really good for baseball, really, really good for him after a tough year.
You mentioned that I saw when I was watching some of the post-game quotes of that game yesterday, he was saying that he was telling Sonny Gray in the dugout, hey, there's some base runners we could get here. So he was kind of letting that be known. But that's interesting that you think the pitch comp was involved in that. I completely agree with that. Josh, with that series he first touched on with the Rays here, here's my question I present to both of you with it. Bruce Bochy, obviously, as you mentioned, Rangers, dang it, 77 career playoff wins. Maybe I should have gone with he's just a beast in the playoffs. He knows how to control a bullpen. His starting pitchers just magically perform for him. I mean, this guy has magic fairy dust. He just puts on anybody, and they go 7 innings and give up 1 or 2 runs. It's incredible watching it out here in the Bay Area for all the years I witnessed all that. So what do you guys think? Here's my question. What's the bigger storyline? The Rangers, to me, showed some massive resilience here. They showed some massive resilience after what happened to them at the end of the season. Or the Rays, who got off to a 13-game streak, 13-0. What's the biggest storyline here? Josh, I'll give you the first take here. What do you think of that with either the Rangers' resilience or the Rays kind of bowing out early? What's the bigger storyline to you?
Oh, the Rays bowing out early. I mean, there's no way they should have lost that series. And I mean, Fort covered it pretty well. I got nothing else to add to what he had to say. I have actually a question for you when it comes to Tampa Bay, but I think Tampa Bay is the bigger issue or the bigger problem for me, bigger surprise. But I was kind of on the Rangers all year. They fell apart, and I thought, they lost it.
Yep.
But they came back at the end of the season and pulled it together. So my question is kind of not related to Daren's question, but it is related to the Rays. Have you heard anything else on the Wander Franco situation and where it stands and what's going on? I've read everything I could find, but you kind of probably have better sources than we do.
No, nothing with enough credibility to speak on it.
Man, I was really hoping it's not true.
Yeah, I mean, I think Trevor Bauer proves that it'll take a long time to get to the actual truth. And in baseball, a lot of times they're guilty before they're actually innocent, which is really, really sad. I hope for Tampa Bay and for baseball that, it's something that was just misled or misunderstood or whatever, and he can get out of it, or it's just flat out not true. But we'll know. I would say sometime probably right after the World Series, they'll probably drop something. They don't want to drop any headlines until the good headlines. I mean, they play those cards and they're all about the PR look. That's why they have not said a word about the Trevor Bauer stuff, and they've just really neglected that, which is kind of remarkable. And it's a shame, honestly. I believe in grace, believe, people can be forgiven for anything. Is it easy? No, but that's what our Savior did. So we need to do the same thing. And, Trevor Bauer's proved a lot, I think, over the last couple of years, especially this year, going to Japan and doing what he's doing. So we'll see what happens. I hope the best. I really do.
No doubt.
And then the better storyline for me is 100% the Rays. How they started, you just felt like they were going to be unstoppable, especially with that pitching. And they have one of the best pitching coaches in all of baseball, Snyder. Absolutely awesome dude. He had a hit out on Glasnow when I was with him in 17. He's like, I'm going to get that dude. And they're both 6'8", tall, lanky. And he knew exactly what he wanted to tell him, how he wanted to work with him. And he got him, and Glasnow took off. So I'm really happy for them, but I hate that they're out of it. And Texas, for me, 150-something games in first place this year, and then they fall off and lose.
Oh, man.
And the Astros take over. It's wild to me. Wild. That division was a lot of fun, especially with the storyline with the Angels. It was a lot of fun to watch that division.
It's incredible though how Bochy I'm just sorry, this man gets into the postseason lately. It's just my gosh, everybody just seems to go to another level. He even said in the postgame, he's like, I don't think we've put together a better 2-game stretch. It took this long to put together it's just hilarious to me, the way he says it, all shucks, we just put together it right now. It's these guys obviously they got to feel some confidence in, right? I'm a 3-time champion, right? They got to feel a little confidence in him as your manager.
Well, I mean, look at how they played early on this year. They played great, right? Yeah. And I think that kind of faded. He shows up every day. He played 162, and you have spring training with him. But then the playoffs come. Everything's different. The feel when you walk in from the garage is different. The way you wake up is different. What you eat is different. Everything's a little different. Bochy didn't change, I bet. Like, he was probably so calm, relaxed, and had the right things to say because he's been there so many times.
We have a comment here from one of our original series, a fan of our show. He's actually the guy that created it. Our guy Logan Stone here. I got to bring it up. He has a question for you. And Logan, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. He says, is there a manager you think should be fired, especially because of the playoff performances? He says Counsell and Cash for sure. I think Scott Services could also be fired. I don't see the Rays going that way with Cash. I don't see that happening that way. Counsell, I say he's obviously on a lame duck contract, so I don't even think he won't even get fired. I don't even think he'll get retained. The Brewers are kind of a mess in that regard. What do you kind of make of that comment there? You kind of feel Cash maybe could get fired?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
He's been way too good over the last 4 or 5 years. And he went through the thick of them being, I wouldn't say a below average team, but an average team with below average players when it came to, what he dealt with early on, and they had a plan and it worked out really well. So Cash is fine. I think Counsell could be a manager for another team, AKA the Mets.
Yeah, that's kind of who I have a few Mets fans there. That's kind of who they're leaning towards as well. That's who they think they're going to get as well over there. So Rangers, they move on. They beat the Rays there with it. What do you guys make of the Twins here? To me, one of the most, I wrote it down, most unreal stat in the world. The fact that you could lose 18 consecutive playoff games is maybe even more incredible than what the Red Sox and Cubs pulled off with 86 years of luck. It's incredible to me, and it does sting a little bit when I watched SportsCenter last night, and they're saying the last Twins win was 2003 against the Moneyball A's. It hurts to see Ray Durham pop up to first base every time with that loss there. So I guess we don't have to see that anymore with it. I'm like, God, that was the last win as the Twins got that against the A's. Sure enough, that's rub it in, put the salt right into the wound with it. But I guess my question is the Twins again breaking just to me an unreal streak, just unbelievable. You mentioned Correa earlier. Do you think I guess my question is, do you think his factor against the Astros here is bigger than most people are kind of like the Astros this dominant team? Does he bring this type of vibe come playoff time that's just different? Because his regular season stats would tell you no.
There's a reason that rookie's playing so well at third base.
Yeah.
And part of it's the guy right next to him. And I think Correa is going to, turn the tide, or at least I hope he does. He had a tough year. A lot of guys, after the offseason he had, what he signed for $800 million, got it taken away, that's tough. So that emotional strain, I think, went over into the season, and he never looked really healthy, never looked clean with his movements. His mind looked just absolutely foggy to me. So I think the fact that they're here in the playoffs, did something they haven't done since 2004, and he's going back to the team that, kind of pushed him away and said, we got somebody that can fill your spot. I think he has something to say about that. I really do.
Man, and I love the manager, Rocco Bodell. It's just he was when I was 16, he was coming up for rookie of the year. So it's kind of funny to see him now as the manager of the Twins.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah, he seems like a really good dude and somebody you'd want to kind of fight for a little bit as a player. So
no doubt,
I could respect that for sure. Josh, what do you make of the Twins there breaking that 18-game losing streak, man? Incredible.
I think they're pretenders.
Ooh.
Wow. Ooh,
that's a strong comment.
It is what it is. They're the team that survived the AL Central.
I got you.
They're pretenders. Now, with that being said, it's the MLB playoffs. Any team can get hot for 16 to 18 games and go on a run and win it all. So I'm not saying they're not going to do it, but I would not say this is a World Series team.
Are they pretenders or are they lucky? Or fortunate to be in that division?
Fortunate to be in that division.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's what something, if they want to make it more competitive, they got to figure that out. Because you can look across the board and see the other teams that were better, even with better records, and you want to figure that out. Maybe it's a 1-game playoff, but they got to figure that out. But how do you not reward somebody, for winning a division? It's kind of weird. So
Right. I think it's time to do a division realignment. And here's why. Let me make my case.
I
no
agree,
difference
but
between-
I want him to add teams. So go ahead.
Okay, so there's one thing. We need 2 more teams, if not 4. And 2 of those teams need to be out of Latin America because it's easy to travel to. They'll have great weather for the playoffs. The people will show up in droves to come watch professional baseball out there.
Latin America meaning
I put one in Mexico and then put one in one of the islands out there.
all right. Puerto Rico has a chance. Mexico,
maybe
a little bit further off. Dominican further off too. But I like that. I like that one idea.
Then they can all play. Like I'd put them in the biggest, or whoever's got the biggest city or the biggest population, and then they could. Obviously they can pull white American players or Black American players or Canadians too. But hell, they can basically just have a couple teams from guys out there, and they will be competitive. I would be surprised if they won, but do that. Add 2 more teams in the continental U.S. But the AL and NL Centrals are both so horrible. They need to mix those 2 together.
Not next year.
Not next year.
Not next year.
They seem to spend the least. That's why I feel like why they're right.
Because they're the small market teams.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like that's what kind of seems to be the common theme is the Cardinals have outsmarted people. They're not necessarily outspending everybody in that regard.
No.
And then you have the AL Central to your point where you have like the Twins and like they're always behind. The White Sox, though, to me, I'm sorry. Their ownership to me I'm sorry. That's something to me I feel a little differently about the White Sox in that regard. I feel like they could be a little better. I feel like Ryan Horst just gets off the hook way too easily. I feel like as the White Sox owner. The fact that Benedetti was the highest paid player they ever had this year in the offseason to me is just insane. I don't know. To me, that just seems crazy in that regard. So I'm curious though to get your guys' take as we kind of move from the Twins, just real quick on the Blue Jays. Because they were kind of like that hot team coming into the season, right? So we're putting them to bed right now at this point. A terrible way to end. They did nothing on offense, and then your star player gets picked off at second base there when you have a little bit of a rally going on, that play we talked about earlier there. What do you think there with the Blue Jays? And I just feel like what do they need to get over the hump in a unreal AL East? It's not an easy division. So what do they? Is it just I don't know. I'm not sure what the Blue Jays do from here.
It is a enigma to me.
Yeah.
Because I had them winning for sure. I thought their pitching would come out on top. I thought they would be able to hit enough, especially with the 2 guys they were going to face with the Twins. Even the 3 guys, they're all hittable. They're not guys that are going to just punch out a bunch of tickets. So it really surprised me. It really did. But at the end of the day, it's a long season, and I think being in the AL East can beat you to pieces.
Yeah.
They had to fight and claw, and they did everything they could, but they were going in thinking the juggernauts in the Yankees were going to take over. Boston, you always got to be worried about, and then all of a sudden Tampa and the Orioles are just absolutely punching them in the face over and over again. So it was a weird year for them, I'm sure.
You're right. You're like, oh, that's the Yankees and Red Sox, and then now you're 3rd place because of the Rays and Orioles. 20 years.
What a tough year,
problem.
Right? Right.
20 years, the same problem. We're still 3rd. Dang it, we can't get out of 3rd place.
The Orioles can't even rent a car. Most of those guys can't even rent a car. All of them are under 25. Think about that.
Yeah,
they're going to be good for so long.
Oh my gosh!
As long as they won the AAA. Ownership doesn't screw it up.
Yep, that's what I say all the time too. Well said.
My guy, I always shout out Brandon Hyde here, Santa Rosa, California native here, right here in Northern California. So big shout out to Montgomery High School here. Like I said, I love that part about their matchup. 79 career wins for Bochy, 0 postseason career wins for Brandon Hyde. So something we'll have to give come that series as well. Hey, Josh, as we move on to the next one, the NL here, the D-backs, your D-backs, you kind of the whole year. Before we were giving up, we're like, D-backs are in, they're out, they're in, they're out, they're in. And then what happens? Corbin Carroll just puts on a show. Marte, he's a beast of a hitter. He performs in the big moments here as well. And the Brewers, I consider them the NL version of the Oakland A's. They find a way to lose in the postseason. They have two leads. Burns has a 3-0 lead. You're expecting that to get a W. He blows it by the 5th inning. Next game, you have a 2-run lead. They blow it again. Williams didn't look sharp as well for the Brewers in game 1. Just everything that could go wrong for the Brewers did go wrong. And I feel like that goes from the beginning of the year from the Burns quotes from day 1.
Yep.
I feel like that's a big issue from what happened here. What do you think about that for it with the Brewers going out here early to the D-backs?
Yeah, I thought there was a divide. You can go back even further when they traded Hader.
Yeah.
That clubhouse was lost. The guys were upset. I talked to quite a few of them, and it hurt. Hader was a huge, huge piece in that locker room. Everybody loved him to death. They didn't see it coming, and especially when you're right in the middle of things, you never want to trade the guy that's kind of a glue guy, So that really hurt them. And then, anytime you take a guy to arbitration and he's one of your best players, I always tell guys, if you can avoid it, avoid it. I've always heard nightmares because you're going to hear things you don't want to hear because that's their job. They're supposed to say the worst things about you so they can save money. So the fact that, he's a Cy Young Award winner has no merit at all when he walks into that room. He's going to get destroyed. And that relationship is going to be messed up thereafter, no matter what. So, I think
Tyler
the Brewers
O'Neill hates the Cardinals so much.
Yeah.
Why you hate the Cardinals? Why?
No, that's why Tyler O'Neill hates the Cardinals so much.
Yeah, they seem to
He
want to
always
hold on
goes to
to
arbitration. I know. They love that potential.
It's the weirdest thing for me, arbitration in MLB. It really is. It's one of those things because you don't really have it in other sports, right? The big league. It's just a weird deal with MLB. Like you said, like you love this player, but you also want to rip on him to save money. It's the whole concept is just odd to me. Like the idea, you'd think you would try to sell that without getting to that point. Can I get your thoughts on real quick the D-backs though? Corbin Carroll, this guy is just a freak. I mean, I just feel like he's going to be a stud. I mean, he's just going to be. I mean, he has the potential to be. He reminds me of a better version of Steve Finley. That's kind of what it reminds me of a little bit. Like that's kind of who he pops out. The left-hander has that kind of. That's kind of what like a little better version of him, like maybe Hall of Fame version of him, if he can get to the level. And Steve Finley's not a bad player at all if you're thinking of him. So that's who he reminds me of a little bit. What do you think about the D-backs getting by? And I love their manager over under 10 cuss words per post-game speech. I like it. I love it.
Yeah, he went bonkers. I think the team's riding a lot of emotion, and they got to make sure to hold that in a little bit more, or it'll get exhausting.
Yeah.
But you got to ride it too. So just that balance is the biggest concern with the D-backs. I think when you look at a team that's really balanced and can beat you in a lot of different ways, it's hard to write a scouting report for the Diamondbacks because they run, they play great defense, they pitch really well, not great, but really well.
Yeah.
And they take consistent competitive at bats, but they also can hit the long ball. So you may see a bunt, you may see a hit and run. You're going to see these guys move guys over. You're going to see 2 strike approaches. All these things are non-existent on some teams, especially when you think about, the AL East, the big boppers in both divisions. You just don't see it anymore. These guys play different ball. So it keeps the other team on their toes, and you have to, honestly just look at it and say, okay, where are we going to pick our poison today? We are going to give up stolen bases. We are going to have some hiccups here because they're going to force the hand, but we'd be fine if we do this. That's how the Pirates kind of went about it, in their scouting meetings, because they were really unpredictable. They adapt to the game as good as anybody, I think, in baseball right now.
And Corbin Carroll to me is one of those guys where like he just feels like if he's up with a runner on second base in the postseason, he's not somebody I want to face. That's always my thing. It's like everybody says the home run, but my thing is if a guy's on second base, who do I not want to get the ball in play? Like that's literally my biggest fear in the postseason.
And he's probably going to put it in play. That's
exactly.
the problem. And you got to get rid of it, right? So
exactly.
That's what makes them different. Yep.
So I feel like he could be an issue here. Josh, you were like, I got the D-backs. I'm not on the D-backs. I got them. I'm not sure. They won the first round wild card. Where do you sit, sir, with the D-backs here as they beat the Brewers here?
So I think the D-backs and the Marlins are like sisters. So because they're very, 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 very similar, but they have the differences. And I love both those teams. They're so much fun to watch play.
Mm-hmm.
I was on the D-backs earlier in the year, very heavy, because I was like, oh my God, I called a crazy prediction and they're actually going to run it. Sweet, I get to write it out. And then they faltered in the middle of the year, and I was like, all right, cool, I was wrong. I get to admit that I was wrong, and I'm off. And I was like, oh shoot, I think they're back. All right, let's go. So I mean, I'm high on them. I would say they're not pretenders. I don't think they're World Series contenders yet, but they are a team that can cause you a headache and are going to be good for years to come. Again, as long as the ownership and the management don't screw it up.
Yep, no doubt. That's always the thing with the D-backs. Their ownership's kind of been a little weird after the early 2000 where they go. They sometimes kind of sporadically will make some weird changes there. Real quick, we get to the next series. Yep, changes coming for the Brewers. Like you said, your Pirates should be next up here. They should be with Cruz coming back. That division should be a little bit. The Cardinals. I don't know what to make of them after this year.
Oh, they'll be competitive next year. Watch.
Yeah, I would think they were. What do you think the Pirates? Just real quick on that, because I know you're a Pirates guy at that. Is the fan base saying they need to be 500 or above at this point?
The expectation in the clubhouse is playoffs.
Okay, so we're at playoff level the next year.
Yeah, the fan base is always that's the marker.
Yeah, 500.
Yeah, they want to see that, because of the 20 years that they've
been burned that many times. That's what happens.
Yeah, that's what they want to see, and I'm sure we'll go into the season. It'll be 79 wins or 80 wins. Will be the prediction. I would bet the over, depending on the depth of pitching. I mean, pitching's the biggest question mark they're going to have moving forward. They have a ton of young arms that are really close, but you can't get deep into the major league season with young arms, into the postseason with young arms, because they've never been there, and they've coddled all these young arms for so long through the minor leagues. When they get up to 180, 190 innings, you have no idea how you're going to respond body wise.
Yeah, it will be interesting how the NL Central plays out. It's and like I said, the AL Central, there always seem to be up for grabs there a little bit. As we kind of move on to the last one here in that series, we had you talked about the Phillies. They look really good. Maybe you can kind of start there with it as we kind of look forward a little bit with it. Where do you think the Phillies, they end up beating the Marlins 11-2. The atmosphere in Philadelphia sometimes feels different to me when they're rocking and rolling a little bit. Like I don't know. There seems to be a little swag there with them. They seem to have that energy again. Harper flipping off the helmet as he's running third, ignoring the stop sign, Willie Mays style. I got this. Don't worry about it. I'll score, no doubt about it. There's a little swag there with Philly, don't you think? There.
Yeah, you saw it last year.
Yeah.
And I think they're playing better baseball now. So watch out. Yeah. I mean, they're a team I wouldn't want to run into right now.
Can they beat the Braves? Do you think what do you think of that series? If we go right there with it, what do you think of that series?
I was really stoked about watching the Braves and the Dodgers. Not as stoked as a lot of people, because I think the Dodgers play a boring brand of baseball. But the Braves and the Phillies, it may be the World Series for me. When you think about how fun that's going to be, because Atlanta's going to match the energy that Philadelphia has. So, and it's a team that, you've played more than most. So, mano a mano, Atlanta's been sitting on the sidelines watching, and they're hungry. So we'll see how hungry they are and see if they can get out in front, because I think that's really important.
Josh, we had our guy John on from Atlanta there about 2 times during the 7th inning stretch. He seemed to say, I'm not too worried about the Phillies. Remember, that was kind of his view. Like, we're not that worried about him. He was kind of more concerned about the Dodgers, but I don't know. It's a best of 5. Anything can happen here a little bit.
Well, I'm going to use the sister comment that was just used. Philadelphia is like their ugly stepsister. Atlanta's all pretty. They did all these huge things, but Philadelphia just figures a way to get it done. And you gotta love that grit. So it's going to be interesting. It's 2 of my favorite teams to watch play. So it's going to be exciting.
This will be a good series. Like you said, being the division rival, there is kind of 2 there. That kind of adds a little extra, a little juice to it a little bit, especially since the Phillies made the World Series last year and came up short. Josh, you have a feeling either way? You think the Phillies actually can upset the Braves here, or do you think this is Braves taking the Phillies here?
I'm going to say with the way the Phillies are playing,
it's
going to be the Braves in 7 instead of the Braves in 5.
Well, it's only a best of 5. So you're saying 5?
Oh, hold on. I hate this format. I liked it better when everything was
3-5-7. 3-5-7. That's the way.
I know. I hate that. I forgot that. I hate it. And I haven't got to see any of the games. I've only been watching highlights all since the playoffs started.
Well, you're on baby duty. That's respectable.
Yeah,
dude.
It's
good
just
fodder. You're good fodder.
Yeah. I'm consumed. Then, damn, it's only 5. That sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Does that change it for you that much? You think the Phillies have the edge in 5 now?
I'm not saying they have the edge. I think that's a toss-up in 5 games.
Yeah, it's
You only
2-2-1 too.
3.
It's
Yeah.
2-2-1 when it comes. Yep.
Oh,
There's talk Acuna can get 8 stolen bases in this series, break Ricky Hendricks's record just like that in one series out there. So we'll see what happens.
So the Braves. So what's the Braves pitching order? It's going to be.
It's gonna be
Striders.
Yep, Fried, and then those are the first 2.
Is it Strider first or is it Fried first?
They haven't announced it yet. To be honest, they haven't announced their. I'm guessing they're gonna go Strider.
I'm guessing they're going Fried
because the veteran presence.
I mean, look at Philly's lineup.
Yeah, all
you
lefty.
You want to throw a wrinkle in it.
Yeah,
Throw the lefty first.
Schwarber.
Yeah,
Harper,
it makes sense too.
Scott. Oh, look at all the lefties in there. That would make sense. I'm a big Max Fried guy, so I'm not gonna hate that one at all. I'm a big
Strider's a Knoxville guy, so either way.
Yeah.
I love Strider, man. He was on my fantasy team this year. He was my dog.
Yeah, when you're throwing one hundo and then like getting, that guy throws absolutely, and his lower half is, my gosh, he's like a horse out there. He looks like no wonder he throws 100 out there. He's like ridiculous out there throwing it. All right, so we got that with the Phillies Marlins. All right, let me go to the predictions here as I go to my shout out, Mike McKenry. I don't know if you know my guy Peter Gabbins, ESPN. I always shout him out. Diamond Notes, big sports center here. Right? So as we move through here, kind of close to the end of the show here. Rangers, Orioles. Like I said, Bochy's got the 79 wins to 0 for Brandon Hyde. Game Saturday morning here, 10 a.m. out here Pacific time. Who do you got there for winning this series?
I've early on for fun. I had the Orioles winning, the AL and getting the World Series and losing there. And the reason being is they don't know they're not supposed to be there. They don't know that they don't belong. They don't know that they're young. They don't care about experience. They're going to show up and play. And I think they've proven that. And everybody's like, oh, they don't have any experience. Blur, 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 blur. It's the game. They love the game. They play for each other. They fight for each other. They came up playing with each other. There's something to be said about that.
No doubt.
And I think, going through, the ups and downs that they've gone through, over the years, and especially a lot of the downs, and then taking off over the last 2 years, that team's scary, and anybody that's playing should be scared. You really should. Outside losing, one of their best bullpen arms, which I don't think will matter because I think they can push guys out there that can fill that space. So they're really good. Very balanced team.
As long as it's not Jack Flaherty.
Say that again, Josh.
So as long as it's not Jack Flaherty.
Jack Flaherty out there, your boy, the Cardinals, ex-Cardinals, Jack. A little personal there with that one. I feel that on that.
Oh,
I
was happy they traded him.
Isn't this a crazy stat, though, guys?
I wouldn't mind him being a Pirate next year. P.S.
Good.
He's on my short list. So
he's infuriating, man, because his stuff is so good, but he's so inconsistent, and he hasn't been able to stay healthy. And this year he's been healthy, and he hasn't been any good. I mean, he's had good games, but he's never put a good long stretch together.
That's why he's going to be good next year in a Pirates uniform.
You haven't.
I know Josh will not like that. That would be good to see there.
Yeah, because we'll win the division or get to the playoffs with 2 Cardinals in our rotation.
Who's the other one you're getting?
Adam
Oviedo.
No, just kidding.
Oh, you're still counting Oviedo. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't count that now. He's already been with you for a year.
Fair enough.
Crazy stat.
He did really good for you, and I'm happy about that because I always thought he never got a fair shake in St. Louis in the way they used him up and down and everything. So I'm super happy for Johan Oviedo that he's found a good spot there in Pittsburgh.
No doubt.
Adley Rutgers, I was going to just say, since he's joined the Orioles, I mean, this is a pretty stupid stat. I'm a big stat guy to begin with, but this is pretty relevant. They have not lost a series when he has played. So that is a pretty good, as if you're a major. I told you, he has a Buster Posey feel to me. That's what he has to me. That's the feel I get from him a little bit. So we'll see if it plays out in the long term with being able to get the rings at the same time. With it,
He's
all right.
better
Twins,
defensively, though.
I would say he's already a better player than Posey.
I think offensively he's not there yet, but defensively for sure.
And Posey won an MVP there, so it's not like act like he was some. He was right there.
I'm with Josh. He's going to be better. There's no doubt in my mind he's going to be better. He's going to be better, but I think he puts a high priority on that defense. And I think it hurts his offense. And Posey had a really good balance, but he also had a pitching staff to die for, when he first got there.
So, I think Posey's overrated. So,
well, I'm not going to go there with it because I think Posey's leadership skills for me when I watched him play, like that's where like I could see some of the things like with the pitching stuff. No doubt, Kane, they're studs, but all the players say it, so it's hard for me to deny that with him. But this is what I say when I put the comparison together with it. Posey's playoffs are pretty different. If you look at some of his stats and how his pitchers performed in the playoffs, that's all part of it. If you're a catcher, I'm assuming too, that's all how you're wrapped in. You're not just thinking about your hitting at the same time. So that's what I say when I say Posey's maybe not the standard, but he's the most recent standard of catchers with 3 rings in 6 years is not bad to go. So we'll see if he's able to kind of get to that report. But I agree. Switch hitter, the guy's a stud. He's #1 pick overall. He's going to be a beast. So we'll see if he can take the Orioles to the next level with the championship there. We talked about this one for this. It's not the sexiest matchup in terms of teams, but you give me a little Correa against the Twins. I'm ready to go here a little bit. 69 career RBIs. Got the double play. Have the unreal play. I mean, the awareness to go from second base all the way to basically the 5-hole, pick the ball up with your bare hand and throw out the runner at home plate. He's putting on a show and kind of maybe isn't worth $30 million regular season, but you get him to the postseason, he seems to perform a little differently. You think the Twins could upset the Astros? Do you think the Astros here to pull it out?
I mean, they just use their best arms, and those guys aren't going to be a pitch right out of the gate, so that's going to be
for sure
really, really tough on them because their depth starter-wise is not very strong. So going into Houston without your best 2 is going to be, flirting with a little bit of fire. And they've been there. You have to give Houston the credit that's due. Dusty Baker and that team really understand what it means to put the foot on the pedal. They did it in the season in the division. They're going to do it again in the playoffs, and they don't panic. So that's really going to help them. The Twins just got to find a way to win one in Houston, and they may have a shot.
Is game 1 really big if you're an underdog on a team like this? You know what I mean? Like if the Twins steal game 1, do you feel like that? Because you've mentioned the pitching. Like I know baseball, but I'm just trying to get into the psychology of how maybe a team dugout's thinking at the same time. If you lose that game 1, does that feel like it's big, like a huge uphill battle? How do you think they? I don't know. I'm just trying to get in the mindset of a baseball player at that point.
I think that's the advantage. Like if Houston loses, I don't think they care.
Yeah.
I think it's a loss and they move on. But I think younger teams, they would maybe think about it. Like the Twins, riding the momentum in, you win that first game, that momentum probably doubles up on you. You can double down with it. But if you go in and you lose that game and Houston's crowd gets into it, you lose in a weird way, you're coming out to face another stud the next day. That's tough.
That guy Daren though he's filthy for the Twins. The closer they have is
yeah.
Talk about a tough AB. Talk about
100-mile-an-hour split finger.
I mean, my goodness, that
the old school guys call it a split finger fastball, and I always like it's like a awesome changeup. It's not a fastball. And then I was like, maybe that's what they meant. Like, did they have a bunch of guys doing that back in the day?
Yeah.
So I asked a bunch of the older guys, older Pirates, hardest split you ever saw, 88, 92, 88, 92, 93, tops. This guy's throwing 99 to 101. It's a joke.
With just freakish 2C movement too. Like it's like it like dies on you too. I think it was the second one he got, the second strikeout, and just like that's just unfair. Like not hittable at that point. And I like how he's like, I got a blister right before he came out of the ninth inning there, maybe getting ahead of the other guys. Like he strikes them all out there right at the start. Josh, you like the Twins or the Astros here? Astros, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. You got that right there.
Yeah.
Come on, Twins, make a little noise. Let's go. We'll get to work here a little bit. Make Rocco Baldelli happy here. Let's go. Rookie of the year, shout out there, Tampa Bay. Let's get this guy. Let's keep him going here a little bit. Here, he's fired up, ready for the win. This is the series though that I'm most fired up for. West Coast, D-backs, Dodgers. I just am ready for it. I know the D-backs, they're the favorite here, but like Gallen, there's something about, and the Dodgers have this choking ability at times. It feels like come playoff time. You're like, I expect the Braves. I expect the Dodgers. I wouldn't be shocked if we got Phillies D-backs either in the series here in the NL as well. Fort, you got a feeling here? You think the Dodgers make this a clean sweep, or do you think the D-backs make it pretty tough on them?
D-backs are going to make it really tough.
Yeah.
Didn't the D-backs play them really tough all year?
Yeah, the matchup's a nightmare for LA. So it's going to be really interesting. I know they don't want to see them. They would much rather see San Diego.
Yeah.
They would much rather see San Diego. And that team on paper, I would have said they were a shoo-in, but obviously you can't do that. This is gonna be a fun series. I haven't thought a lot about it, but this is gonna be a really fun series.
And for me, that makes it kind of is like I said, you have these young guys that are ambitious, like you said, like you talked about the Twins riding the wave a little bit here. You have the Dodgers who they've been sitting out a week. They don't play till Saturday. And like I said, the Dodgers have this history of kind of getting off to slow starts a little bit. So we'll kind of see where that goes with it. The Dodgers, though, to me, like I say, always have the best 1-2 combination in the league right there at the top of the order, Betts and Freeman. Doesn't get much better than that when you have those two guys at the top of the order.
They're relying on a lot of young arms.
They are.
Since they lost their number one lefty, and then Buehler's not pitching, May's out. They have some question marks. Obviously Kershaw will get the ball game one, and then after that, you have a bunch of young dudes with just filthy stuff.
Yeah.
So my guess is they may overthink it. They may overthink it. They may try to do bullpen days, openers, bulk
and
guys.
Roberts has shown that.
And they have the best analytical department on the planet by far. They have the old locker room is literally the entire analytics department. The analytics department in most teams is a little baby conference room. I mean, they do it a different way. It's a different animal.
It's so funny you said that because I'm listening to the KMB or my local radio station here that does the Giants, and they're talking about Farhan. He was doing this post game. The GM, when you lose, you have to do your little kind of post your end of the year. And they were, the Giants obviously didn't make the playoffs. They're like, they turned the whole old press conference room into the analytics room, and it got us 79 and 83. They were like, that didn't even get that because they were doing the interviews in the dugout, the exit interview in the dugout. So I just thought that was funny when speaking of analytics. But you're right. The Dodgers they're stacked with how they do that, but the D-backs have this young energy coming at you a little bit. If they steal game one, you kind of don't really know what will happen at that point. And if the farther you get Gallen, you get these guys that will be ready to go at times that are dangerous. Josh, you got a feeling here? Dodgers, D-backs, either way?
You know what I want.
I know what you want.
But can you say it?
What are we going to get?
Stick to your guns. Don't run away.
I mean, okay.
Don't do it.
So this is another one of those. Here's my hypothetical. If Arizona can steal one in LA, if they can steal one in LA in the first two games, they win the series, in my opinion.
Why is that? Why is one game? The Dodgers, they got some guts in them. I mean, they're 10 out of 11 here. They should have some resolve. They should fold that easy. What gives you? What makes you think
I'm not saying.
I got to play devil's advocate here.
I know. I'm saying that then the Arizona gets to go home. And when was the last time they had a playoff home series?
Been a while.
Been a minute.
Okay, so that's what I'm getting at. I thought it had been quite some time. That fan base is probably going to load up and go absolutely insane.
And it'll be loud indoors.
Because, really it's enclosed there completely, right?
Yeah, it's like Milwaukee. You wouldn't be able to think.
Okay. That's what I thought. I couldn't remember if they had any kind of retractable roofing or anything.
It is retractable.
So that's going to be.
It is, yeah.
But they'll keep it closed, for the playoffs.
Yeah.
But it's going to be crazy. And I think if they win one, they'll have legit home field advantage walking back into Arizona.
It will be interesting this to me is the most, like I said, a West Coast guy. I can watch it because I'm off work. That helps as well. So I can watch. 6 is a little later start. That helps with that stuff, especially with the speeding up of the games here. I'm always MLB postseason. I used to love it. They'd be up 9 hours playing. It didn't matter what time I was up here on the West Coast, but I actually got to kind of pay attention a little bit more now to it. So with it, the one thing I'm looking forward to is kind of what you mentioned was the depth of the Dodgers rotation versus the youth and excitement, plus the veterans of like a Marte and a Walker that have been in there to kind of get this done. And there's the division rival there with it. Mm-hmm. So this one to me does add a little, it just is a little weird to me. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe the Dodgers end up sweeping them, but this is the one that kind of to me stands out the most. We talked about the series the most so far, but if you could just give me a prediction so I can get it on video here. What do you think for Philly, Atlanta? Who are you taking?
Atlanta.
Okay, Atlanta. Josh, who do you got?
Hot Atlanta, baby.
Hot Atlanta. Fort, I got to ask you my question of the week here. And I was
let me throw out something why the Dodgers don't need to win.
Let's go.
Because they are going to be a super team after this year, in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah,
you think Ohtani's going, don't you?
I don't think that's the only place they're going. They have enough money. They went underneath the threshold, so they reset it, and they're still under it. They didn't go trade. They didn't make a bunch of moves. They're gearing up for big. And you think about the rotation next year, right? Kershaw will be back. Ohtani will be there, whether he's pitching or not. I don't think they care. He'll hit, then he'll be pitching the next year. But then you also have, Buehler back. You have May that'll probably be a bullpen guy after this. I mean, and then they have some of the best talent in the minor league, especially when it comes to arms. I'm telling you, and they have more money to spend. So it's gonna be wild how good they could be, and it's like they've set it up for this, and they still were good enough to get in the playoffs. So that's why I don't want them to win, honestly, because I think they're gonna take a huge step forward.
And any Bay Area fan out here says the ring they got doesn't count, obviously. So that's a Giants fan out here at they just definitely discount the Mickey Mouse ring of that. So that's
I don't care if it comes out of a Cracker Jack box; they all count.
It makes Giants fans feel better, I guess. That's what they say with that. It makes them feel a little bit better. That's interesting you say that about the Dodgers because they already feel like they spend up the wazoo. You know what I mean? It feels like that. Like they're already out. Like whatever the Yankees felt like when I was a kid 25 years ago, they're basically kind of taking that to the next level.
Well, think about it. The Mets are going to pay them this year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's the difference. Like they reset it. I mean, they were up in that third tier where you're paying a ton of taxes. They're not paying anything this year. And they did not go. I can't believe they didn't go over. They didn't even go do anything. They were really quiet.
And that's impressive, fellas, to pay no taxes in California. I'm impressed with that. That's it.
That's one reason why they're going to have a hard time getting free agents. But
I want to know who they're talking to. I need that.
That's good.
I got a question. I have questions. All right, and it's not for you, Daren. So shush.
I'll be fine.
Fort, I gotta ask, man. You don't have to answer this one, but I would love it if you did. Players, do they ask for more money when they end up getting offers from teams in New York and California and Illinois because the taxes are higher to compensate for what they're going to be paying in taxes? Or do they, if let's say an offer from the Cubs and I don't know how are the taxes in Pennsylvania?
Not terrible. 4.
Okay, so if you went Cubs, if they got identical offers from the Cubs and the Pirates, and the teams were where they're at right now, do you think a player would ask for more money to go to the Cubs because it's in Illinois over Pittsburgh?
They take it into account.
Okay.
They also have a lot of things set up to avoid a lot of those taxes. But you can't avoid, the big boppers. New York. California taxes. I mean, when you get up to 15%, you have an athlete's tax. You have all these things. It's just unbelievable. So yeah, you got to pay more. And that's why I think you'll see teams like LA and stuff like I could see Ohtani signing a 3-year deal or a 4-year deal. It could be 40-50 million bucks. And then, you're going to have an option or a mutual option because if he gets hurt, they can say, see you later, and they're not stuck, but they have the money, they have the ability. But yeah, the taxes definitely hurt them for sure.
Okay. I was just curious.
Yep.
I didn't know if when it gets to those, I mean, when I'm talking the big
Even think about it in the
contracts.
division. Think about the division you sign with too. So like,
That's a good point.
if I'm playing, for example, now they play everywhere, but if I'm playing in, California, more often with San Fran and LA, I'm paying California taxes every time I go into that city.
Right.
So
I didn't even think about that part either.
yeah, you pay taxes in every city you play in. So that changes things. So everybody wants a team in Tennessee, and everybody wants to play in Texas.
Absolutely.
That's right, NBA, right? Let's go to the Miami Heat.
And then Toronto, you pay double.
Yeah.
That's I so like there are states if I was a pro athlete I just wouldn't go play in, and it's California, New York, Illinois, and Canada.
Yeah, I think when you get up so far, and they have great people on their teams to help them kind of figure it out. But when you get up so far, I mean, a lot of these guys, they have a house in LA, stay at the beach. It's incredible for a short tenure, and then they go home. So the balance there is okay, is kind of what I've heard. But yeah, you got to kind of figure out like your do's and don'ts. And that's the first thing you do in free agency when you start looking at it. I never got to big time free agency, but like you start looking, and, I had a chance to sign with the Giants. I pulled back, signed with somebody else for less money. And part of the reason, was because it was San Francisco and the Giants, and also the fact that you're going to be paying a lot more in taxes.
What do you mean by it was the Giants though? Like was the team at that point not ready to go at that point? Or you just mean like
No, they won the world. They actually won the World Series. It was my biggest. It's my biggest regret when it comes to where I should have signed. I usually Yeah, we used to put colors out of toys for my dog and let him pick, and we always picked the same one. That time he picked the Giants, and I didn't.
What year was that? 2014.
16.
16. Okay.
Yeah, the last one they won. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah, the Giants have and it's true with the taxes. That is part of it. I think that always comes into it with some of it because, like I said, other sports you see the same thing. It happens all the time with like Florida and all these states that come into it. Josh, I try to do my best not to answer that for you, all right? As somebody at Cal, but Josh, don't hate on Cal. Come out to Sonoma County, my friend. It's a nice area out here. We can have you out. The weather's wonderful.
Yeah, it's a great place to visit, right, Josh?
You can have a glass of wine
as long as I don't have to pay the taxes.
And live, you son of a. It's funny.
I don't like taxes.
I haven't left the state of California in like 15 years. I've been like this little nook. I don't travel much. That's the way I am. I don't think I've been east of Utah since I was like 2000.
It's beautiful out there. Just not to live.
I got you.
I'm with Josh.
I got you. All right, I'll be West Coast bias out here on the 7th inning stretch.
Hey, but you know what? I bet the seafood's fantastic.
I did post us a picture the other day where I had on gas $30, 5 gallons. So I do feel you on that. That's what I got for 5 gallons of gas. Yeah, not very much for $30. Yeah, that's what it is. That's why I posted. I said I love the weather out here. It was like, as we're like 96 degrees today out here in Sonoma County. So, all right. So that's 7th inning stretch for us here tonight. I got to go extra innings here though. Thank you, sir, for spending your evening again with us. Just like willing to take the time to join, just be a Josh, just this kind of regular podcast out here and just kind of making us feel like we're part of the kind of the game here a little bit with it. And hopefully you feel entertained with it at the same time. And I just appreciate you taking the time to kind of be part of our journey with this.
Hey, I appreciate you having me. You guys are first class. I was looking forward to it. You guys asked really good questions and, you have great insight. So it's always fun, being a guy that's still in the game, analyze the game, to hear from people that love the game and have their own thoughts, opinions, and they're actually thoughtful. They're actually like educated. Even when they're not, they're still fun to talk about, but you guys do a great job. And I say, keep it up, keep the love, keep the passion. Hopefully this goes exactly where you want it to.
Josh,
we appreciate that.
I'm assuming he was talking about you with the subtypes part of it.
Oh, absolutely. That's clearly me. And I'm not offended by it at all. It's truly, I do this because I love it, not because I'm good at it. But no, we appreciate you coming on and we'd love to have you on in the off season because, the off season is slow, so we can have some fun and different conversations. But I would personally like to have you on after winter meetings to kind of talk about what you think is going to happen post-winter meetings. Give us a little more insight on what happens at winter meetings, things like that, if you have the time.
So I may go. So, yeah, I'd love that.
And maybe we'll talk about the Pirates winning the division and what they have going forward. What do you got going on? What do you got going on this off season? So for you, right? You kind of been working, doing all the stuff with the Pirates. Like, what's kind of your coaching? What do you kind of do during the off season here with baseball?
I'll speak, I'll coach, and I'm gonna start a little new venture as well. And then I've got camps in different places. I have one in Houston with USA Baseball. I'll do another one in West Virginia, another one in Knoxville, and then some stuff around Pittsburgh. Well, I'll stay pretty consistent. Next week, I'm actually coaching a fantasy camp. The Pirates, the Braves, the Tigers, and the Indians. It's a round-robin event. We're going to take the championship, celebrate.
Yeah. Is fantasy
That's
camp
cool.
Fans that have bought? Is that how that works? Or is it actually like how's that? Is that fans that have come into? How's that work? Fantasy?
Yeah, so it's people that either love the team and they pay a fee. This one's a little bit different, but like normal fantasy camp, you go down to spring training, you have 7 days, and you're literally treated like a big leaguer. And there's 2 ex-players that manage each team, so they take batting practice, they do all the workouts, they have trainers, they have all the gear, and then they compete. They play 2 games a day, the last 5 games, and then the last day, every team plays against the pros, which was my favorite day. Yeah.
I want to do this.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
awesome. And then they do an event at PNC. It's a weekend. They play 4 games, I think, over the weekend at PNC. And it's like, winner take all, a lot of fun. And then this one is a little bit bigger. You play other fantasy, teams camp. So it'll be the best of the Braves, or the best that they could get, or who could come. Supposedly I have a couple ringers, so I'm really excited. But
Terry Pendleton?
No, I guess I have a guy that throws about 88.
All right.
I was told I can pitch him just a little bit. So it's pretty cool. And they'll also have a 79-year-old catcher that's left-handed.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's all over the map, and that's the coolest part about it. Yeah, and the stories of why they're there, like the guy that got this whole thing together came up to PNC, hit a grand slam, first guy to hit one out at PNC fantasy camp, and I guess the last decade. He went because his dad passed away, and his dad was a huge Pirate fan. He'd never, fall in love with the Pirates, but that's why he went.
Okay.
Very cool. He bought it for his dad, and his dad passed away. He came in, and now he's just obsessed. So he got this entire thing together. It's going to be in Nashville. So it's really exciting.
It's funny how you say, it's funny how you bring dad and son into baseball, because at the end of the day, when you think of postseason, right? Like Josh, probably with you, is like, that's part of it. Like there is like this kind of magical thing that goes along. Like your dad roots for a team. It's hard for you not to root for the same team.
There was a dad and daughter at the 2 of them down in Bradenton, and both the women that were there were really good. Like they're very competitive. They could really run. A lot of these guys can't move, so that made them better. But yeah, it's cool to see stuff like that, because that I think makes the stories that much better. And there's a lot of father sons there that are playing together and like best friends. And like if you draft one, because we do a draft, you draft them all. So they like there's an Italian family. It's an entire infield. So if you draft, they have one of the best pairs in camp, shortstop. He's on my team recently. If you draft him, you draft the entire clan. It's like a mafia. So you have a whole infield, immediately if you draft them, and then you lose your next 3 picks. So you have to really decide. Yeah, it's nuts. It's a lot of fun. I had my first venture at it this year, and I got to win the championship at PNC. That was fun.
All right. Well, it sounds like you need to watch the movie Kicking and Screaming. I don't know if you've ever heard of it with Will Ferrell before. It's where he plays the guy. Get the ball to the Italians. Get the ball to the Italians.
We're gonna watch dodgeball instead. But yes, no underdog story.
You gotta get Mike Piazza out there with you. That'd be great. That sounds fantastic, man. Like Josh said, it's awesome to have you come on the show with us and just give us your expertise. And like I said, you obviously just way more than us, so we just really appreciate you just taking the time to give us your expertise on the playoffs here. With that said, we wish you the best of luck with this off season. Hopefully you have a good time to kind of refresh a little bit with your family and whatever you're doing there with it. And like Josh said, maybe come off season, maybe we'd be lucky to get you on again sometime.
Yeah, just let me know. I'd love to. And thank you for the warm wishes, and same to you guys.
All right, sounds good. So for the fort, for Josh Edwards, I'm Darren Breyer on 7th Inning Stretch. Until next time, peace.
Hey, this is Brandon. See